Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
You're listening to The Man That Can Project with Lachie Stuart, a global movement created to empower men and open up what's really going through their minds by having real and raw conversations about life's unique challenges and our individual ways of processing it all. Welcome to The Man That Can Project.
Welcome back, gents, to another episode of the Man That Can Project podcast. This is episode 263. So thank you to everyone who has invested time and continuing to support the show. 2021 is going to be a very, very exciting year for all the men that are a part of the Man That Can Project, the Man That Can Project itself, plus the podcast. There's a lot of exciting things happening. So thank you for your unwavering support, Jensen. I'm really excited for today's episode. So today's guest is a good friend of mine, Carlo Cirillo. And Carlo is a former semi-professional soccer player, and his story is incredible and very, very similar to mine in a way, which is awesome. So it's great to have an in-depth chat around all the things that he went through. So Carlo is now an ambitious, conscious creator, impacting the world of business, health, and mindfulness. So he's mixing both passions of human optimization and connection, and he's also a teacher on how to integrate both being spiritually aligned and also how to thrive in, the day-to-day modern life. So pretty impressive stuff that he focuses on there. He's a keynote speaker, meditation teacher, and host of the Conscious podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend checking it out. And he's the founder of the Conscious Collective. So Carlo's vision is the human consciousness and self-awareness to be the most authentic and best version we can be to make the most of life, which is a pretty powerful vision. So in today's conversation, we talk about, what it was like for him moving over to Europe to have a crack at professional football, being dropped by his agent, breakups, letdowns, his identity crises, and obviously, as the title mentioned, know thyself, be thyself, love thyself, which, we go into a great deal of depth on how you can gain clarity around that. So, gents, this is definitely an episode that I would listen to multiple times, and I would share with any man that you know who is lacking direction in their life, or just any men in general. So before we even dive in, take a moment to share this with one of your mates so that you can have a conversation around this conversation, right? The best way to make sure things sink in and we really understand it is to chat about things, is to teach and have conversations. So definitely give that a share to a mate that would appreciate it. Gents, leading into 2021, we have the Inner Circle program. It is filling up. As I've mentioned multiple times, it will be capped at 100 men, and there's no better place to start your 2021 than in that group. There's men from all around the world, meeting up virtually and being a part of an incredible community of men, setting 12-week game plans, and just creating more momentum in their life. And we're working on mastering the 8 areas of life. So this is an incredible community. Take up the 7-day free trial before it goes away, gents. There's an opportunity for you to dive in and have access to everything that the members have access to, get in on the weekly group calls, and just really start doing what you need to do to take your life to that next level. So, gents, enough from me. Let's enjoy this episode. So definitely, if you're driving, I would re-listen to it. If you're sitting at home, grab a pen and notepad out, because this is one of the most incredible conversations I think I've had in a very, very, very long time. So let's dive into it. Gents, welcome back to another episode. Sitting across from me, and I wish it was in person, is a great individual, a great friend, and someone who I was fortunate enough to be on their podcast. And we have very, very similar stories, as you will find out as we dive into this conversation. But welcome, Carlo. How you going, mate?
Lachie, it's an honor to be here. I'm doing fantastic for this Monday. I wish it was in person, and it will be soon. They won't stop us.
Yeah, I know. Hope, fingers crossed. And how was the drive? I know yesterday you were doing a 6-hour drive from Melbourne to Mildura. Did I pronounce Mildura?
Mildura, perfectly. Yeah, look, it's been something I've been doing since I got my license. And if there's events wherever they are, however I get there for whether it's a company event or a friend's event or filming or whatever it may be, man, I love getting in the car and going on a road trip. I think the next one is going back up the East Coast to visit you. So 6 hours is nothing compared to that one. So I actually, like I was saying before, I enjoy it. It's my time alone when no one can contact me and I can actually listen to an audiobook or a podcast and zone out. Well, not zone out too far. I still got to focus on the road, but like it's almost meditation for me because there's nothing else to worry about. It's just eyes on the road and I can take in good information.
Yeah, it's crazy how you don't realize until you actually are on a long drive how much you might use your phone to, whether it's to check social media, reply to messages or emails or anything like that. We're totally consumed. Well, I know for myself, I am totally consumed by my phone when it's around me. So making time to intentionally, or even if you're in a car where it's not really intentional, to switch off from your phone, you just do it because it's probably safer to get that downtime to be safe.
I'm pretty sure it's a law. We should not be on phones while driving.
Yeah, I'd assume it's the same in Queensland. No.
Yeah.
But mate,
you guys do it different out there.
Yeah, we do things differently around here, which is cool. But mate, I truly appreciate your time, and I know myself and everyone who listens to this episode is going to take away a heap from what we discussed today. And I know you've overcome a heap of adversity and had some cool experiences and are up to a lot of cool stuff currently, which is exciting to sort of learn about. But as always, I'd love to hear, and I'd love you to share with the audience more about a lived experience that you've faced, and I guess some challenges that were thrown at you from that, and how you sort of overcame those challenges.
Yeah, so just one
or many. Let's see how we go. I know you've got a few.
Man, it's funny because it's like I feel like everyone's life. I feel like we all have so much that happens to us, and with context we find out and we're like, whoa, it's not just the one linear line of life. It's all these little jumps in between. And I think whether you call it a privilege or a curse, I definitely see it as a privilege that I've had a lot of those in my life, and it's been able to show me a lot of lessons. And the way I like to describe it and pick out those key points, and we'll cover a lot, and how I like to describe my story is that, for what my ego wants everyone to hear is that for 20 years I got to play the sport I loved. I played soccer for my state, for my country. I had the privilege of going overseas and playing semi-pro in Europe. And that was amazing. Like I won all the awards. I haven't lost a game in 3 seasons. Like it's a great feeling. I love the camaraderie. I loved traveling with it. I love the people that I met. But during that time, I moved out of home at 16 to pursue it, like to move to Melbourne, 6 hours away. And that was incredibly lonely. I had to mature. I didn't get to go to parties with my friends. I had to train, and that was my main focus. And because it was my love at the time. And at 19, I moved overseas. I left a relationship that I was in for 4 years. I went overseas and I got dropped by my agent after 2 weeks and said, you should go home. You're not good enough. You're not going to make it. So had my dreams crushed in that moment. So at 19 years old, I guess I threw myself in the deep end, and I drowned for a little bit, and it wasn't fun. And I felt like that pressure was all from myself. It was all that self-inflicted, I'm not good enough, that judgment, what will others think of me? I'm not good enough. I came over and they said no. And I felt like I was holding myself underwater because I was like, why can't I just be accepted and show what I've got to show. I went to one trial and they're like, no, you're not good enough. So for me, I felt like I gave away, while playing soccer, I gave away my power to other people, whether it was my coach, my agent, whatever it may be. If they said, well done, I was amazing. But, for most of the time they didn't. And for most of the time I played a great 88 minutes, and those 2 minutes I didn't play well, I would keep that on myself for the whole week, and I'd put myself down and I'd beat myself up about it. So for so long, there was always so much pressure on myself to be perfect and amazing. And, I got my heart broken from the thing I loved so much. What my ego wants you to hear is that right now I have amazing relationships around me. I have the most supportive best friends you could ever ask for. They've been there through the ups and downs, supported me in so many different ways. I have a great relationship with my family. And I have a community of people that are like-minded and so supportive and just really good people to be around. That camaraderie that I always craved and loved. But what my ego doesn't want you to hear is, for so long, I struggled with that. I didn't know how to connect to the people around me, especially in sport, because they weren't like me. I was very sensitive, very emotional, and I showed that. And, you go into a sport, it's like, toughen up. You don't show your emotions, just get out and work hard. No one cares. We want to, beers, bevs, bags, whatever that was back then. And yeah. And for me, I was different. I loved personal development. I loved, connecting with people, but for so long that was really hard. And after that first relationship, I spent 7 years single. I didn't feel worthy of love after that, because I did all the right and wrong things in there. And I didn't love myself. And I know that's quite a buzzword at the moment, but I didn't like who I was. Therefore, I didn't like anything that I was doing, because I didn't feel worthy of that. I didn't feel like I had value to offer. I felt alone. I was heartbroken. I would break my own heart. I would close off so much that I wouldn't allow anyone to love me. Therefore, 7 years of being single. And, leading me to the path of now opening up and having really close relationships, which so glad that I did that. What my ego wants everyone to hear is that right now, I run a company that I love. I'm doing all the things that I'm really passionate about. I feel so aligned, on purpose. Podcast just got over 100 episodes. I've had incredible people like yourself on. I get to connect with amazing people. I get to run events, transformational events for people, retreats, events, workshops, all these things. I get to be featured on, incredible publications and apps and projects. Like it honestly feels like I'm just having so much fun, and I happen to get paid for it, which is incredible. But what my ego doesn't want you to hear is that for so long, it wasn't like this. This was not overnight. This was 8 years of 30 different jobs, 10 different businesses, investments that went south, money that I invested and lost, living out of my car. One was a choice because I had a van and I did it up, but everyone thought that was van life looking good. It was van life. I had to live in there and survive off, the bare minimums, because I didn't have any money. I was on zero and I had debts to pay. So for me, it was like, for so long, I worked so hard and I tried doing what everyone else said to do and what I thought I should do. I did 4 network marketing companies thinking that was the thing. And nothing against network marketing, but everything I tried just didn't work. And I was like, well, I'm a failure. I'm not worthy of success. Babe, I should go back. My dad owns a vineyard, nothing against vineyards. I should go back and join the family business and just do that and give up. Why am I trying to do these things? And for me, it felt like I was lacking purpose, especially when I was in multiple of those 30 jobs. They were just to get by, just to make money. But I felt that lack of motivation, lack of alignment. And I guess throughout my life and throughout that journey, those key highlighted moments, there's obviously heaps that has happened, but I had so many situations that threw me deep into discomfort, massive challenges that I chose to face, and they beat me down a lot and they did leave scars. But for me, I always knew that if they can do it, I can do it. If there's a problem, I can overcome it. I always had that belief that I'm going to be David Beckham. of whatever industry I go into. And obviously at football at the time, that's what I wanted. But for me, it was like, but I also want to make an impact. And, you know, I realized that everything was on the way, not in the way. And I delved deep into personal development since I was 18. And that's what's kept me going. And I discovered what I think my purpose is. And I discovered what things that I was passionate about. I mixed the things I was good at with the things that I was passionate about. And I created something of service to serve other people. And, you know, whether people call it luck or fate, whatever you want to call it, I created the life I'm living now because I was sick of the life that I was living and the results that I was getting. And it was like, there's got to be a different way, because what's the alternate? I keep doing the same thing and getting the same result. No, I wanted to live that epic life. I wanted to give back. I wanted to transform people in their lives and their mindsets, whether it was from stage, whether it was from podcasts, whatever it may be. I just wanted to help people live a better life and not realize their potential, but at least go for their potential and live in their potential in any way possible.
That is a powerful snapshot of your journey. And, you know, where you said multiple times, like, you chose to get to where you are, and people can say it's luck or whatever they would like to, you know, choice of words they'd like to use. But once you make that conscious choice to go after what it is, and you said, you know, there was 30 plus jobs there. Some of them were serving the purpose of just keeping yourself in the you know, a van over your van over your head, no, but roof over your head, like. But you were still pursuing more. And one thing, you know, you started personal development at 18. That's incredibly, for where I came from and the world that I grew up in, like that's incredible. And that's something that I wish, you know, we even learned from an earlier age. But 18, how did you get into it at 18? Like, what sort of brought it into your mind frame that, you know, you could start learning to be better, learning different skills? Where'd that come from?
It was actually 17. I joined a network marketing company. You're supposed to join at 18, but I was too eager. I think it was a couple of months to my birthday, and I was like, I'll just do it. I won't tell them my birthday. It's not like I'm going to be a top earner in, you know, 3 months. And I think in that environment, I was surrounded by people 10 years my senior that had life experience, 10 or 20 years my senior. And in that company, yes, there was a product and you know, they were all great. But the other half of that was mindset, was you need to read this book. You need to discover your values. And it was Tony Robbins. It was Jim Rohn. It was, all the greats like that. Man, I can't think of their names now from back then, but all the people that I was looking up to, and going from that, we were like, you've got to go to these events. You have to learn from these people, the company events. And it was just leadership on a whole new level. There was personal growth on a whole new level. And like you said, like I wish I had learned it even earlier, but that's why I guess I can sit here at 26 and be like, from the life experience, but also, like I was saying, that drive, I used to do that drive so much. I spent so much listening. I had CDs, like a CD player. Yeah, I'm not that old. A CD player, a little Walkman thing that I would put these CDs of, it could be selling or personal growth, and it would always be going in my ear. And I always knew that information in would equal information out. And if I was putting in good stuff instead of drama TV shows or, you know, certain styles of music or whatever it may be, I was feeding my brain with good stuff. And now it's like, no wonder why I was so kept on track during those times. I never got to the point of going, I give up, this is it, because I always had that little voice of these people that I would listen to, and it would just keep coming back in. And I guess that's what created that inner peace and resilience throughout all those challenges that happen.
Mate, it's mine was the same, network marketing. I was 23, 24 when I started. I wish I found it earlier, and everyone has their own opinions around it. But what I took away from it was exactly as you mentioned, like you're going into these rooms, getting to learn from people from all walks of life, but everyone has a common goal. They want that freedom of choice. And you start learning from people who earn 6, 7 figures, whatever. But one thing that they all promote heavily, aside from obviously the product, is learn. So read, grow, choose an appropriate environment to be around like-minded people who are going to support and encourage you and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Like they're thinking now, like it seems very simple, but back when I first got introduced to it, as I imagine you were. It was so foreign, but it was also so exciting because, as you mentioned, I used to do the drive from Toowoomba to Brisbane to meet my partner nearly every day, and that's a 4-hour round trip. But I'd be the same. I'd have CDs in the ute. Like for me, I had Preston Smiles, I had Jim Rohn, I had Tony Robbins, who asked Zig Ziglar, like learning sales and personal development as well. And it's because exactly that. Like when I was on the job site, it wasn't conversations like that. It wasn't information like that. It was all negative, and it got you feeling down or it got you bitter. And then you jump in the car and turn something like this on. And you're like, nah, I'm taking ownership of my life, and I'm gonna change it. Like I'm in control. I just got to keep learning this stuff. I got to keep, instead of listening to the music that I want to listen to right now, I'm going to listen to something that's going to change my way of thinking and maybe teach me something that can change my life, which is, obviously you look where you are, and I'm also proud of where I am. And I truly believe it's because of the time that we continue to invest in ourselves and people that we hang around. And, it's not always easy. And there's stuff that challenges you continually, but it, helps you put one foot in front of the other on those days where you don't necessarily want to do that. But going back, obviously, so you started at 17, that's an incredible thing. And the compound effect of where you'll be, 26, 27, think about 37 is pretty exciting. But, going through that, you would have just started the network marketing, I guess your personal growth. Did that help, obviously, when you went to Europe as a 19-year-old and, the dream was to be like Beckham and then to get dropped by your manager 2 weeks into it? That's pretty rough. But how did you sort of handle that whole process? What was that like for you?
Especially when you're 19, you've just left a girl you're about to get engaged to because your sports psychologist goes, what are you going to regret more in your life, not going for your dream or not getting married? And I was like, well, I think I would resent her for the rest of my life if I didn't go after my dream. And she's like, well, you know what to do. I can't tell you. You have to make the decision. And I think for me, it just felt so right. And by going over there and that happened, I spent all my savings. Like this was, I gave it everything. I spent it all. I went over. This was all my savings that I'd worked so hard for. And to have that happen was just, tell you what, about being put in a situation where you don't have your support network around you. Yes, we did have phones and Facebook and all that. I could contact my friends, but at the same time, when you can't, hug someone, you can't just sit with someone and talk to them, it was tough. And, I had, what's his name? His name is, it was a bodybuilder, a fitness model that passed away 2 years after that happened.
Was it that Ziz fella?
No, not Ziz. It was, I can't remember his name, but he had these quotivational videos on YouTube where he'd be working out and he'd be, he'd just be saying quotes as he's doing it, like really inspirational stuff. And it was, you got to keep going. Life's about learning how to dance in the rain, like all that sort of stuff. And I just kept playing that. And I was grieving, like, all these things happening, but I was like, no, if this person says I'm not good enough, that's one person. There's 5,000, if not more teams in this town. I'm going to go make another one. And I did. So 2 months later of staying there and doing what I had to do, I made a team. It wasn't in the level that I wanted to be, but I made a team. And I was like, I stayed there for 2.5 years and it was an incredible experience. I don't regret it at all. Like I met one of my best friends over there. I had some housemates that went on to are now playing pro. I had some that also went on like me to quit and not play anymore. And at the time, like I just can't really paint that picture because it was like so many emotions, but you're also over in a foreign country. If you were home and you could go home to mum and dad, totally different story. But I guess in that, it wasn't like, hey, suck it up, you've got to do this. It was, hey, you need to learn how to regulate yourself. You need to learn that inner peace. You need to learn that inspiration and motivation from yourself. When you don't have anyone around you, put it this way, it's like a forced vipassana where you have to sit. You have to motivate yourself. Like no one was going to come over and find me a club. No one was going to come over and pay my rent. or no one was going to come over and buy my food. I had to do that myself. And I think it helped from 16 living on my own away from my family. Definitely matured me quicker. But also, you know, that experience was like, I look back on that and I go, whoa, that was 8 years ago that happened, 7-8 years ago. But it set me up to be like, I don't stress anymore. Like I can have nothing and I can have everything come to zero and I'll still be okay. And I think that's what's built that resilience and that belief that it doesn't matter what happens to me. I've got that. Yes, it'll be challenging and it might throw me off at the time, but it's like, I'll get through this. I've gotten through worse. I've been lost in Paris when my mates left me on a night out, or in Belgium, and didn't know where I was going, didn't have any money, but I found my way home. I'm fine. Like I've been chucked in so many different situations that one was probably the key one at that time, because it was everything was taken away from me that I loved and held as security in my life.
I think that's such a powerful experience to have. And, you know, I had one relatable going to France, but I think once all of the lifelines are taken away from you, or you know, they say when you really want to commit to something, burn the boat or burn the bridge or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you did. And when you get lost in Paris at night, or at moments like that where you'd normally go, oh, I know where my local this is or that is, or I can call my mum or call my mates, takes the edge off. But when you don't know what to do, it forces you to start thinking, right? It forces you to face the problem that's there. And one, you can either let it cripple you, or two, you can work out how to solve that problem. And you know, one thing that I really took away from all those, what you just said, you know, learning the inner peace, learning to regulate your emotions and deal with what's in front of you, like is, to me, it rolls back to just learning to take responsibility and ownership for your life, and trusting that regardless of what comes your way, adversity, challenges, you'll be able to do whatever is necessary to overcome that and move forward. And I think it's something that a lot of people and men, especially that are, you know, I work with, or that are coming towards, probably you said in with the conscious community as well, conscious collective, is that people have lost the ability to think for themselves and problem solve. And the exciting thing is, by hearing your story, or, you know, there's a lot of people doing incredible things at the moment, is that it's like, okay, well, once I start learning to take ownership and appreciate who I am and where I am, my benchmarks right now, I can only grow from that. And yeah, as you mentioned, the emotions may be scary, the situation may be scary, and at the time you may go, oh shit. But when you work through it, looking back, it creates a whole new level of person. And so for me, it's like, it's so exciting to be able to get to that, you know, persevere with challenges and take ownership for where you are and where you want to go. Because, you know, you could have easily just got lost in Paris at night, and who knows where you could have been, but you found your way home. Right? You had a clear goal in mind, and you did whatever it took to get that. And I'm sure, you know, that's what's helped you create a successful company and podcast and everything else that you're doing, is you set a goal. And when you first started, you may not have known what the journey is going to look like to get there, or the process to get there, but you've just been like, that's where I'm going, and I'll figure that out as we get there.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. And like you were saying before, it's like that discipline of over a long period of time. Like I was in network marketing for 5 years of personal development, you know, day after day after day after day, checking in with coaches and mentors. I got almost free personal development in that. And now I invest in it because I know how good it is to have that, whether it's mentor, whether it's different perspective, because it's all reaching back to all those answers that we're looking for are within ourselves. And I think it's a Delphic oracle that says, know thyself, be thyself, love thyself. When you can know who you are, and like for me, it was like when I knew who I was, I went, okay, even when everything's taken away, I'm sweet. I got this. You can put me with no money in a country and I still found a way to survive. I stole from supermarkets. Wasn't great, not proud of it, but I did what I had to do. Now, be thyself. How can you, it's a big thing that everyone throws around. Just be yourself, just be. And it's like, well, who am I? I don't even know who I am. So we go back to that knowing that's always been there. That's not with judgment of I have to do this, be this, or what other people are telling me to do. It's that being that's always been there, and then love that. And that's where it becomes harder. And we produce all this anger because we don't love. We think it has to be a different way, or we did something wrong and we hold on to it. And I think I look back at all those experiences and I go, Nothing was wrong. Nothing was right. It just is what it is. And I did what I had to do to move forward. And again, could anyone have written the story of our life, any more dramatically or differently? Would I have enjoyed it? I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong. The tough moments, some of them I wish I didn't go through, but I'm also like, but that taught me the most. Those were the ones that made me who I am right now. That's why I'm not stressed if, a pandemic hits, because my business 10x'd in this time. And it was, how can I adapt in any situation that gets thrown at me? And that's where it's like, again, it keeps coming back to, and it's amazing that you mentioned this, is like, it's all when I didn't have people around me, who did I have access to? So I made Bob Proctor, Dean Graziosi, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins my best friends. They weren't there physically, but they were talking to me. And they weren't hearing my problems, but they were always had an optimistic view, and they were always switching your mindset and putting in the good stuff. So now when something comes up, people are like, oh, you're just really optimistic. It's like, no, I'm real. I will say there's a good and bad to everything. There's duality, but I don't play in one-sided life. I go, there's two, but I'm stepping away from that and going, awesome. I don't have to participate in that if I don't want to.
100%. And it's exactly that perspective that makes what you're creating and who you are so powerful, right? Because it's, as you mentioned, you're human and there's duality, and it's easy to listen to the one element where you want to stay in bed or you want to be pessimistic and life sucks, which is, most people experience on a daily basis. I do. But then there's also the other side where it's like, well, okay, if I had the choice, I'm always going to choose this. Sometimes I need a little bit of assistance, which may be calling my best mate, which may be listening to a podcast, which may be reading a book or an audio, anything like that, that makes me go, actually, nah, I'm going to these guys. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, whether we're not aware of that or we're just conditioned to the people that we maybe hang around, or we may turn the radio on or watch the news, which is generally going to go, nah, look at the pessimistic side of life. There's not much opportunity. The economy's crashing. COVID's destroying the world. All of these sorts of things are happening. We need to understand that, going back to, as you said, there is duality, but I choose to fuel myself to focus on the things that are going to empower me and allow me to live the quality of life and the standard of life that I am excited about living. And I think that's such a powerful thing for everyone listening. Now, I would listen to this episode again, just from your story from the start, and see if you can pick up a few subtle things that you may not have heard the first time when Carlo was sharing his story, just around, there was moments where you were talking about the perseverance, you were overcoming challenges, there was more setbacks, you started doing the inner work, you're investing in yourself, you changed your environment, you made a decision, like all these things that I feel, and probably you feel as well, Carlo, are common sense now, but they're also not. So I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to the story again now that you've heard a little bit more explained and detailed, and see what you take away from it. Because anything that you hear multiple times, I read the same books, a couple of times, because you're always going to take a different perspective once you've finished it and you've grown a little bit. So I highly encourage you to go back, because there's some great stuff in what Carlo said to start it out. That's for sure. But
it's crazy because I read Think and Grow Rich every year, and I always take something different from it every year.
Mate, it's funny because I've got a bookshelf. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So far there's 12 things full of books, but the top left-hand corner is the books that I read every year. Think and Grow Rich, Awaken the Giant Within, and I've got Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Lost Connections. What's the How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The Richest Man in Babylon. Read them every year.
Yeah.
Purely because it's like I still am not implementing most of the stuff that I read from that. I get excited by it and I start chipping away at things, and it's in the back of my mind, but then life happens. So to be able to go back to doing that. But obviously, you were just sort of touching on that experience. You managed to land a club in soccer, stay there for 2 and a bit years. But let's talk about when you came back to Australia. What was that like for you? You'd obviously been in network marketing, I'd say, for maybe 3 years from that point, 4 years from that point. But you also, did you build up an identity then around being a football player from that point? And when you came back to Australia, what sort of happened for you there?
Yeah, so I've been playing since I was 6. So I was Carlo, the soccer player. I had an afro at the time,
Did you?
um,
Nice.
massive afro. And so I was just known, how's soccer, Carlo? How's this? How's that? So when you come home and you fall out of love with something, which happens, do what you love until you don't love it anymore, I say. But I came back and it was a total loss of identity. I was like, who am I when I'm not playing soccer? Who am I when I don't have that partner of 4 years? Who am I when, I stopped network marketing? I was known for that company in a lot of places. Like, oh, that's Carlo that does that network marketing company. Because I was so invested. When I do something, I go all in. And again, there's nothing wrong with that of things changing and evolving. I think that's life. Things are going to happen. But when that happened, it was pretty scary, because when you feel that loss of identity, you're like, who am I? What's my purpose? What do I do now? Because when people ask me, hey, how's soccer going? And I go, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. They respond with, oh, why? What happened? Like, were you not good enough? It's hard to, when your ego is like, I wasn't good enough. Like, well, you really want to say that? That's affirming something that you really don't want to say. Like, for whatever reason, yeah, I had injuries. Yeah, things didn't go my way, or I didn't perform in certain places. And I'm happy to admit that now. But at that time, it was like, that's like you're giving yourself the opposite of a compliment. You're putting yourself down. So when people would ask it, it was like almost when you go through a breakup and they're like, oh, how are you two going? And you're like, I don't even want to talk about this. Like, you're just stabbing the wound even further. So for me, it was, real confusion. And I know a lot of people get that, whether it's in like their job, like maybe they lost their job, or they move on from their job and they're like, well, who am I now without this job? And that's why a lot of the stuff that I do teach and mentor on is, like we said before, that inner peace, that inner knowing, that being of self and knowing who you are, so that all these other things are just things you do. Like, I live my purpose through anything that I do. And that's just to help people come back to who they are at their core. So I can do that serving coffee. I can do that writing books. I can do that being an athlete. That's where I put all my purpose and fulfillment in external things. That's who I am. My identity is that. And what happens when that gets taken away? And as I said before, everything got taken away from me. And when everything gets taken away, you have to build from the ground up and create you. And when you have you realize that you've only ever got you through an ever evolving world, an ever changing world. So from that moment, it was building back me. So then I did like myself. I did have confidence in myself. And then, getting to a point now where I feel unshakable, even with events, even last week that have happened that are pretty challenging. So
What happened last week? Do you want to share?
Sure. Love to go vulnerable. Where me and my partner went through a conscious uncoupling, and to put that in normal terms, we broke up. And that was something that was totally unexpected. And for me, it was painful to feel all those emotions and, unexpected, all of that. And that was, I'm not suggesting that everyone go test themselves and throw themselves into a foreign country with no money, or get lost in a country at night, or spend all your money or give all your money away so you have to start at zero. Thankfully, you can do things like cold showers to bring a bit of discomfort into your life to create resilience, or a tough workout. But, even like this year, I relate it back to, the pandemic. Like, there's just challenges that you're going to face, and you can either give in to them and give up, or you can go, okay, this is what's happening. Maybe I don't like it, but if it is to be, it's up to me. Like, what am I not seeing within myself, or where do I need to grow? And that was the question I kept asking was, this is painful. I'm allowed to feel that. I'm not going to ignore. For most of my life, I avoided uncomfortable conversations and discomfort, because it's easy being comfortable and it's nice and you don't have to be tested. But that was a big thing I learned from one of my mentors, Hanade O'Brien in Bali. He's like, you need to be tested. That's how you get through life and you have that resilience. And this was a big test, and there was no bad ending. this could be something that re-sparks in a couple of months. But it was having an uncomfortable conversation about, what are my needs? What are your needs? And are they being met? And if not, then, what are we doing? So yeah, to be very open and vulnerable on the podcast, that's what happened.
Appreciate you sharing. It's interesting, as you said, it's like as we continue to grow and, level up as individuals, it's funny how just around the corner is a challenge to really test whether you've understood and you can actually implement what it is that maybe you've been learning. And, you see people all the time who just get stuck in relationships that maybe they're not unhappy in, or maybe their needs aren't being met, and they just avoid the conversation, and it becomes bitter, resentful. Maybe they play around, whatever happens. So being able to sort of confront that head on is one, which I hope the people listen from this, is communication is so powerful and so important. And it's not always easy. And first and foremost, communication with yourself. So if you feel like things aren't being met, right, your needs aren't being met, then you need to work out how you can communicate that to your partner, right? But then you go through that whole process of understanding the emotions that are coming up for you while you're about to address that with your partner. So you're communicating with someone else, right? Because if we can't communicate honestly with ourselves, and then never put ourselves in the situation to communicate honestly and effectively with those around us, it's going to be very hard for you to create the life that you want. And as you said, like that, this conversation and what you've gone through over the last week, Carlo, might be something that finds its way back into your life over the coming months in a much stronger position. We don't know, but nothing in life's absolute, and everything's there to be improved upon. And it's through communication, reflecting in with yourself. Like as you were saying at the start, the benefit of having a 6-hour drive one way gives you a moment in time to just slow down and think, right? The beauty of COVID for a lot of people has slowed us down, slowed the world down, and made us, start thinking about what's actually important to us. So then, we have these moments, and it's up to you as an individual to think about, what are you going to do with these thoughts? Are you going to act upon it, or are you just going to go back into everyday life? But Carlo, you were saying before, the know thyself, be thyself, love thyself. I think that's awesome. Might even be the name of this podcast. Who knows? But when we go back to, and I can promise you there's a lot of blokes listening to this who will go, well, how the hell do I know myself? For you, when you were in that point, because I would imagine, coming back in and being lost with that identity, how did you sort of start answering that question?
At first, I started asking the question. That's the thing we avoid. We avoid asking those tough questions, whether it's to ourselves or others. And as you said just then, it's an element of trust. And do I trust myself? And for a lot of my life, it was like, no. Do I like myself? No, because of these things I did in my life. And it's like, what's these questions that I'm avoiding here about myself? Why am I not happy? First question to ask. Well, all the first things I can guarantee you are going to be external things that your mind comes to. But when you get to the 7th or the 10th or the 20th, it's going to be, it's internal. It's my view on something. It's my perspective. I'm not clear on this. And when you start asking those questions, or you ask good questions, you get good answers. Not like, what do I want for dinner? It's like, what do I need to feel nourished? Not, why do I feel like shit all the time? What do I need to feel nourished? What are those elements of my life that I need to feel nourished? And then we go to a basic level. You've got food, nourishing food, water, exercise, rest. Simple. Always go back to the basics if you're feeling overwhelmed or anything like that. But then what else do you need? Do you need people around you that support you? Like, what are those needs? And going back to, well, who am I without all these external things? Who is Carlo on a basic level? What do I love? What do I enjoy? What's my ego trying to say, but what's my soul actually saying? I always go back to my heart, like, what's my heart needing there, or what's my heart feeling like it needs at this time? And that's how you're going to get to know yourself, because all the things that you do are not knowing, they're things you do. But if we don't know who we are, we're always going to feel like this doesn't feel right.
That's powerful, man. Even when you just said, who is Carlo, or for me, who is Lachie? And for those listening, ask yourself that question, who is? And you then don't just get stuck with that question. If you don't know, ask, as Carlo was saying, ask yourself the next question, right? What's the next question for me that's going to help me gain clarity around that? When you said that, who is Carlo? For me, I was thinking, who is Lachie? And it excites me because I know who I am and I'm excited about who I am. And I feel like there's been a lot of decisions based upon feedback that I've got through making other decisions and implementing actions in my life. And if we don't, I guess, be or understand that there's going to be failure, we're going to make bad decisions. We may feel like we're a certain person and we may feel like we want or need something in our life, and then we might find out that it's wrong. We got to be okay with that, because once again, using that as feedback is going to point you in the right direction of maybe understanding who you are. So for those who sit there and play it safe, don't want to have the tough conversations like what Carlo had last week, don't want to ask themselves questions like this, don't want to invest time in listening to podcasts, reading books, or all of that sort of stuff, you're playing it safe, and your quality of life is probably not going to improve much from where it is right now. So sorry, jump in.
Sorry, I was going to say just so many why questions, and not to keep you in that state. It's actually like, stop avoiding it. Why am I unhappy? Why am I sick? Why am I feeling like I have to go use drugs or alcohol to escape my life? Why am I so unhappy? And getting to the core of that, because that's when you can change that. And you change that, you change your life, you change your mindset, you change your life, you change your actions, you change your habits. But if you keep doing the same thing and avoiding, whether it's a conversation with yourself or someone else, it's just going to, there's no clarity. Questions create clarity.
100%. It's that simple. And once again, you might not always like the answer that you get back, but when we go back to, as you were saying, one thing you do really well, Carlo, is take responsibility. If we take responsibility for where we're at and the answer that we get, we can change it. If we choose to go, I don't like that, I'm not going to accept responsibility for that, I'm going to look to blame, you're never going to be able to change it. You're just going to prolong what needs to happen in order to create that change. So the opportunity is there for everyone sort of listening in. And I know we don't have much time left, unfortunately. This is a cracking conversation, so we'll definitely have to have a number 2. But I've got 2 questions I'd really love to ask you. And one, first and foremost, is what can I do to support / nurture you and everything that you're up to, because you're up to some incredible things.
That was the question you asked. That's an interesting one. I didn't know it was going to be asked at me. So what can you do to nurture me? And that is to keep being you, is to keep asking yourself those difficult questions and being you, because that's what inspires me. That's where, when you step into that place of knowing thyself, being thyself, loving thyself, that's what lights me up. And when we come together without judgment on, you have to be a certain way, or you didn't do this for me, you came on my podcast and you didn't come on mine, and whatever else, when you show up as you in a pure state, that makes me inspired. That makes me, a rising tide raises all ships. It raises me up. And I feel for me, it's by you asking me these questions on this podcast, it allows me to dig deeper within to me. So thank you for holding that space for me. That's what nourishes me. Asking me, actually giving a shit about the person you're talking to and holding space for them can honestly do so much. And that's why I love, being on the other end as well, because I love holding that space for people. So yeah, being you and holding that space for someone else can do so much for someone, including myself.
This brings me, actually, and thanks for sharing that. And I think it's empowering for everyone to sort of step into being their true authentic self. And it reminds me, you go back to saying holding space and asking questions. And when I was Uber driving, one of my goals was to learn how to build rapport, really quickly. The average Uber trip's like 5 minutes in the Brisbane city, not that long. So I was like, right, I'm going to ask questions that these people have never been asked. And as a result of the responses that I get, I'm going to work out which questions are effective, which aren't. And I feel like a lot of people in life, we go, I don't really know what to ask apart from how are you, like closed-end questions. Start just thinking of random stuff that you could ask your mates, right? Don't just go in to the pub or whatever sort of catch-ups you're having with your mates and ask the same ones. Go in loaded with some different questions. They may think you're weird. They may ask why the hell you're asking that. But if you want to connect on a deeper level, if you want to sort of understand more about your mates, which will internally or flip that around, it'll help you understand more about yourself. Start loading yourself up with some great questions. Like even Google interesting questions. You'll be fine. That's a great starting point. But through that process, you're going to dig deeper in yourself, because what most people do when you're asking a question, you're always thinking about the answer for yourself as well. Or it may spark, like you've just sparked with me with your response then, back to me asking questions when I was asking Uber, when I was driving Uber. And finally, Carlo, I'm really excited for this response. You when we were chatting yesterday, you're like, just prep me on anything that I need to know. And one thing I never prep anyone on is the answer to this question, because I think it's unique and I think everyone's individual response deserves to be heard. And it's important that it is heard, because it resonates with different men all around the world. So I think it's important. But Carlo, what is your definition of being a man?
Being a man is knowing thyself, being thyself, and loving thyself. Because as I explained before, when you know who you are and you keep digging into that, when you be that without any judgment or perception of anyone else inflicting their values on you or what life should or shouldn't be, and you love that, and you continuously with love keep working on yourself without that harsh judgment that keeps you down, you will step into yourself. You will take self-responsibility. You will ask those questions and start to not avoid the things that are going to help you show up and step into your power, therefore impacting the people around you. And with that, I see so many people that are angry, don't know who they are, hold on to so much. Knowing thyself, being thyself, loving thyself. I know, I do a whole program to find that. And I'm sure Lachie has so many things that you could do. It's not just a one session thing to do. But if you come from that place of wanting to do that and continuously do that over the long term, you become the man or woman that you want to be.
That was a beautiful answer. Really, really incredible. And obviously, you were sort of touching on then as well. You offer ways for people to sort of find that out about themselves. So where can people find you? I know, you have the podcast, The Conscious Collective, and your business is the Conscious Collective. So where can people find you? Where are you most active online? Or for those who
I'm all over the gram. So Instagram's the best. That has links to everything, website, all of that. So it's Carlo_Cirillo. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, because my Italian name can be hard to spell. But that's everything. Like at the moment, it's more so, the Conscious Collective, which is a community of people. We run, next year we've got a whole year full of events, transformational events, seminars, retreats, workshops, all that type of stuff. And it's going to be powerful. It's going to be transformational. It's going to be deep. It's all about mindset, heart set, soul set, and health set. So we really want to create a holistic approach. And, I just love giving back and sharing the tools and tips that I learned and I spent so much time doing, but also giving others that experience and tools, tips, and knowledge so that they can make an impact in their life by taking responsibility and implementing those things, asking the questions and not avoiding those difficult times. Because last thing I got to add is everything that has happened in your life was exactly what was supposed to happen. And it couldn't have happened any other way, because it didn't. So trust that everything you're going through right now is exactly what you need. And it always is. So trust that and always go within. What can I do? Why am I feeling this? And you will start to find the answers. And when you find the answers within, you won't seek without. You will create those answers within, and you'll create that certainty within, which will create everything you want on the external.
Boom.
Bang.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But Carlo, mate, thank you so much for your time and sharing everything that you've shared. I've got you don't even have to say a whole page of notes anymore, because the iPad just keeps on going down and down and down. So I've got a lot of notes, and I look forward to hearing feedback from all the men. And women who listen to this, it's going to be some huge, I guess, light bulb moments for people. But as you guys heard, you can see in the show notes for Carlo's link to his Instagram, and you can find everything else from there. But mate, definitely look forward to having you back on soon, because I think we were only just getting started. And once again, appreciate your time and all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Like I said, thank you for holding the space, and it's an honor to be here. Love what you're doing, and so supportive of it because it inspires me. So it was epic to share this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Gents, thanks so much for tuning into that episode. I'm sure you have a whole heap of takeaways, and I would highly recommend listening to that again. As I mentioned midway through that conversation, just even listen to Carlo's story again and what we spoke about, and through some different perspectives and tools and things that have helped both of us take our life to that next level and really learn to understand ourselves more. If you go back and listen to Carlo's conversation and what he shared about his journey along the way, I guarantee it's going to look different to how you first heard it. And that's such a powerful thing to take into all aspects of your life. For me personally, and as we mentioned actually in this conversation, I reread books that I get value from, because I know that when I finish it, I'm a completely different person to when I started it, and I want to continue growing those perspectives and seeing what else I can get out of a book or a podcast or anything like that. So highly recommend doing that, guys, and take some value away from that. Gents, thank you so much, obviously, for doing that. If you got value, please share it with those that you know would get value from it. It's helping support the Man That Can project, and getting these episodes into the hands of more men that can benefit and change their life as a result of listening to these conversations. And you guys can be a part of that ripple effect. So I look forward to connecting with more of you in the free Facebook group, the Man That Can project. It's awesome. I've been going through constantly calling people and just getting to connect more and understand what you're going through, where you're looking to improve, and learning more about you as individuals. So gents, thanks so much again, and I look forward to catching up in the future. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachie Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.